well. The Indiana Fever just pulled off the impossible. They beat Minnesota without their golden girl Caitlin Clark and somehow made it look easy. Sophie Cunningham and Natasha Howard decided to turn into absolute monsters, while the Lynx forgot how to play basketball. Commissioner Cup champions without their supposed savior? This changes everything. What do you think hurts more for Minnesota? Losing to a Clarkless Fever team, or watching their championship mentality crumble when it actually mattered? Let me paint you a picture of what just happened, because honestly, I'm still trying to process this madness. The Indiana Fever, without Caitlin Clark, just absolutely demolished the Minnesota Lynx 84-74 in the Commissioner Cup final. And when I say demolished, I mean they made Minnesota look like they'd never seen a basketball before. The whole narrative going into this game was predictable. Everyone was talking about how the Fever would struggle without their superstar point guard. The media was practically writing Minnesota's victory speech before the game even started. After all, this is the same Lynx team that had only 2 regular season losses. This is the team with Sophie Collier, who's been putting up MVP level numbers all season. This is supposed to be their year, right? Wrong. Dead wrong. What we witnessed was Sophie Cunningham and Natasha Howard putting on an absolute clinic, while Minnesota's so-called superstars forgot how to show up when it mattered. Cunningham, who everyone loves to hate because she plays with that edge that makes opposing fans cry, decided this was her moment. And Natasha Howard, she reminded everyone why she's got 3 championship rings while most players are still figuring out how to win one game. The funniest part about this whole situation is how wrong everyone was about the Fever's dependence on Clark. Sure, she's an incredible player and obviously makes this team better, but this idea that they're completely helpless without her, that narrative just got blown to pieces in front of a national audience. Minnesota came out thinking they were going to cruise to an easy victory. They probably had their championship celebration planned out already. The Lynx jumped out to a 27-14 lead in the second quarter, and for a brief moment it looked like all the experts were going to be proven right. The Fever without Clark were going to fold under pressure against a championship caliber team. Then something beautiful happened. Indiana went on an 18-0 run to close out the second quarter, 18-0, against a team that's supposed to be championship material. That's not just a momentum swing. That's a complete psychological demolition. You could almost see the exact moment when Minnesota realized they were in serious trouble. Sophie Cunningham was absolutely relentless during this stretch. She was hitting shots, playing defense like her life depended on it, and bringing that spark that championship teams need from their role players. This is the same player who gets criticized for being too aggressive, too emotional, too much of everything that makes basketball fun to watch. Well, guess what? That aggressive, emotional energy is exactly what won them this game.
It was a team effort tonight, but with 16 points, 12 rebounds, and 4 assists, your MVP is Natasha Howard.
Natasha Howard was doing what veterans do in big moments. She wasn't flashy, she wasn't trying to steal the spotlight, she was just executing at the highest level when her team needed it most. Howard finished with solid numbers across the board, but more importantly, she provided that calming presence that kept the Fever composed when Minnesota was desperately trying to mount a comeback. The defense was where this game was really won though. Indiana held Minnesota to 7 points in the second quarter. 7 points. For a professional basketball team, that's absolutely embarrassing. The Fever were swarming every screen, contesting every shot, and making Minnesota work for absolutely everything they got. Sophie Collier, who's been unstoppable all season, looked completely lost out there. She shot 6 of 18 from the field and couldn't get to the free throw line once. For a player of her caliber, that's unacceptable in a championship game. The Fever were in her face all night, making her uncomfortable, and she never adjusted. Great players find ways to impact games even when their shot isn't falling. Collier disappeared when her team needed her most. Kayla McBride had 0 points from 3-point range. 0. In a championship game. These are the players Minnesota is counting on to carry them to a title, and they completely folded under pressure against a team that supposedly had no chance without their best player. What makes this even more incredible is how the Fever's bench players stepped up. Kelsey Mitchell was doing her thing, but it was players like Lexi Hull and others who made the difference. When your role players are outplaying the opposing team's superstars, that's when you know something special is happening. The rebounding numbers tell the whole story about effort and hustle. Indiana out-rebounded Minnesota 40-30, and those weren't just empty stats. Those were momentum-changing offensive rebounds that led to second-chance points. Those were defensive rebounds that stopped Minnesota's best scoring opportunities. Basketball is often about who wants it more, and the Fever clearly wanted it more. Stephanie White deserves massive credit for how she coached this game. She trusted her bench players in crucial moments. She made the right adjustments at halftime to completely shut down Minnesota's offense. Most importantly, she had her team prepared to play without their best player, which is exactly what good coaches do. The psychological impact of this win cannot be overstated. The Fever just proved they can beat elite teams without Caitlin Clark. That takes pressure off Clark when she returns from her injury. She doesn't have to feel like she's carrying the entire organization on her shoulders. She can focus on getting healthy while knowing her teammates have her back. For Minnesota, this has to be devastating. They just lost to a shorthanded Indiana team in a game where they had every advantage. They were at home, they were healthy, they were facing a team without its best player, and they still couldn't get it done. That's the kind of loss that can haunt a team for an entire season. The Commissioner Cup might not count in the regular season standings, but winning it means everything for team confidence. The Fever just beat one of the league's best teams on their home court without their superstar. That's the kind of win that makes a team believe they can beat anyone, anywhere, under any circumstances. Looking at Minnesota's performance, this might actually be a wake-up call they needed. Sometimes teams get too comfortable with success and start believing their own hype. Getting embarrassed by a Clarkless Fever team in a championship game is exactly the kind of reality check that can either destroy a team's confidence or motivate them to reach another level. The funny thing about sports is how quickly narratives can change. Before this game, everyone was talking about how the Fever couldn't survive without Clark. Now we're talking about how deep and talented this roster actually is. Before this game, Minnesota was the consensus championship favorite. Now they're the team that couldn't beat Indiana without their best player. What's even more impressive is how the Fever executed their game plan. They didn't try to replace Clark with one player. They played team basketball and got contributions from everyone. That's championship level basketball, and it's exactly what you want to see from a team that has title aspirations. The defense was suffocating all night long. Minnesota's offense, which has been one of the best in the league all season, looked completely out of sync. They couldn't get good looks, they couldn't execute their sets, and they couldn't make the adjustments necessary to counter what Indiana was doing. This win also shows how much the Fever have grown as a team. Early in Clark's absence, they struggled to find their identity without her. They were losing games they should have won, and looking lost on both ends of the court, but they kept working, kept improving, and now they're beating elite teams without their best player. The bench production was absolutely crucial. Sophie Cunningham was phenomenal, but she wasn't alone. The Fever got meaningful contributions from players who don't usually see big minutes in important games. That depth is going to be invaluable when Clark returns and they make their playoff run. Minnesota's struggles weren't just about one bad shooting night. They looked unprepared for Indiana's defensive intensity. They couldn't handle the physicality. They couldn't make the extra pass when their initial options were taken away, and they couldn't execute when the game was on the line.
Sid, I was talking to Aaliyah before the game just about veteran leadership, especially coming into a championship game. She named you. Is there anything that you told the team heading into this one with your vet experience and your championship experience?
Yeah, I was just making it clear that we need to have a turning point in our season, because so far this season, like our coaches have told us several times, the only full 40-minute game that we played was Seattle, and we won it, and we looked good. We looked like we were on the same page, and then we were up and down again the next two games after that. So we're just trying to
This is exactly the kind of win that can change a franchise's trajectory. The Fever have been building something special over the past few seasons, and victories like this prove they're ready to compete at the highest level. They're not just Caitlin Clark plus 4 other players anymore. They're a legitimate team with championship aspirations. But let's talk about what this means for the bigger picture. The WNBA has become incredibly competitive, and games like this prove that any team can beat any other team on any given night. The gap between the top teams and everyone else has closed significantly, and that makes for better basketball and more exciting playoffs. The way Sophie Cunningham played in this game is exactly what championship teams need from their role players. She wasn't trying to be the star, she was just doing whatever it took to help her team win. That kind of selfless basketball is what separates good teams from great ones. Natasha Howard's veteran leadership was on full display throughout this game. She made the right plays at the right times, and her experience showed in every possession. Having a 3-time champion on your roster is invaluable, especially in big games like this.
And we have a resilient group. They're tough mentally, physically. They pull for one another. I don't know if it's something that I learned that I didn't already know. It's just I'm proud for them that they can see it come to fruition. Being able to handle the ebbs and flows of the game, being able to give to one another regardless of struggles. I mean, we had some players that were struggling. We had some moments where we struggled, but we still gave to one another. And that's a growth area for our team. I felt like our execution through 3 quarters on both ends of the floor was really good against an outstanding team. I mean, I'm just really proud of this group. We're going to continue to get better. We're going to continue to stack days. It's nice to take a trophy home, but this isn't the ultimate goal. It's a goal. And we've got to continue to get better.
The fact that Indiana was able to execute their game plan so effectively without their best players speaks volumes about their coaching staff and team chemistry. This isn't a team that relies on individual talent to bail them out. They have a system, they trust each other, and they play together. Minnesota's struggles in this game expose some weaknesses that other teams will definitely try to exploit. When Collier isn't dominating, they don't have a reliable secondary scoring option. Their bench production has been inconsistent all season, and it showed in this game when they needed depth the most. The rebounding battle was absolutely crucial to Indiana's victory. They were more physical, more aggressive, and more determined to control the glass. Those extra possessions added up over the course of the game and made a huge difference in the final outcome. Looking ahead, this win gives the Fever tremendous confidence moving forward. They know they can compete with anyone, and when Clark returns, they'll be an even more dangerous team. The experience of winning a championship game without their best player is something they can build on for the rest of the season. For Minnesota, this loss has to serve as motivation. They can't afford to have games like this if they want to achieve their championship goals. The talent is there, but they need to play with more urgency and execution when it matters most. The Commissioner Cup trophy might not be the ultimate prize, but it represents something important for the Fever. It's proof that they belong among the league's elite teams, and it's a stepping stone toward their bigger goals. This game also highlighted the importance of depth in professional basketball. The teams that can get meaningful contributions from their entire roster are the ones that typically succeed in the playoffs. Indiana showed they have that depth, while Minnesota showed they might be too dependent on their top players. The defensive effort from Indiana was truly impressive. They made Minnesota uncomfortable all night long and forced them into difficult shots. That kind of defensive intensity is what wins championships, and the Fever showed they can bring it when needed. As we look toward the rest of the season, this game will be remembered as a turning point for both teams. Indiana proved they're ready to compete at the highest level, while Minnesota learned they can't take anything for granted. The WNBA playoffs are going to be incredibly exciting this year. So there you have it. The Indiana Fever just rewrote every narrative about their team in one incredible night. Sophie Cunningham and Natasha Howard proved champions are made, not born, while Minnesota learned that talent without execution gets you absolutely nothing. When Clark comes back, this league better watch out. Like and subscribe for more basketball content.